We're going to look at dividing polynomials, but before we jump into this, we're actually going to start off by refreshing long division just for numbers. So let's take a number like 1,537, and we're going to divide it by 12. Now, as we do this, we're going to kind of pay attention to the process and the steps we follow in the long division, and then we're going to use those same steps with a polynomial. So to start off in this case, I would look at the first digit or two digits. For this, we're going to look at 15. And ask ourselves, how many times does 12 fit into 15? It fits in one time. Then I'm going to write the 12 underneath, subtract it, and I have 3 left over. Kind of as a next step, before we repeat, I need to bring down the next digit, which is a 3. And now we're going to do the same thing, but this time we're going to ask ourselves, how many times does 12 fit into 33? It fits in 2 times. So 2 times 12 is 24. I'm going to subtract the 24. And there's a 9 left over. This time I'm going to bring down the 7, so 97, and again, how many times does 12 fit into that? If it goes in 8 times, that would be 12 times 8 is 96. Subtract the 96, we have a 1. Now at this point, you would either keep going or identify your remainder. In our case, we are going to identify the remainder. I'm going to call that R. There are 2 ways we can kind of make a statement once we've done this calculation. The first is we can say that 1,537 is equal to 12 times 128 with a remainder, so adding on plus 1. The second way we could make this statement is as a division statement. We would say 1,537 divided by 12 is equal to 128 plus 1 over 12 for a remainder. We're going to look at using those same steps and those same techniques, but now doing the same thing with a polynomial. Now, just kind of to remind us of what those 4 steps are, we start off by dividing using just the first couple of digits, or with a polynomial, the first couple of terms. We're going to multiply, subtract, and then carry down the next digit or term. So let's take a look at a polynomial division problem, and let's try and follow these same steps. And we can see here, these are kind of the same 2 forms that we looked at before, but we're going to be doing the same thing with a polynomial. We'll call it p of x. When we divide it, what we divide it by is called the divisor, which is why we use a d there. For our purposes, we're just going to use a binomial for now. Once we've done the division, our answer is the quotient, q, and whatever's left over, r, is the remainder. So I'm going to do a similar thing, and again, the problem is going to get a little long, so try and give yourself enough space to do that division. So I'm going to set it up like a similar division problem, and this is going to be pretty long. And we're going to put in our whole polynomial of 5x cubed plus 10x squared minus 13x minus 9. And we're dividing it by x minus 2. So we're going to do kind of the same steps, and we're going to ask ourselves, what would we need to multiply by to fit in a 5x cubed? I recommend just look at the x, look at the 5x cubed. We'll deal with the other number afterwards. 5x squared times x would give us 5x cubed. So we'll start with a 5x squared, and I'm just going to write it to line up the same way we do with numbers. Now we need to do our multiplication step. So what is, I'll write it on the side, x minus 2 times 5x squared. That's what we'll be subtracting. So we're going to subtract, and I'll do it in a bracket since it's got 2 terms, 5x cubed minus 10x squared. If you're wondering where that came from, x minus 2 times 5x squared is 5x cubed minus 10x squared. So that's our multiplication step. We then subtract. 5x cubed minus 5x cubed is 0. Be a little careful with the signs on the next part. 10x squared minus 10x squared is actually 20x squared. So that's our third step of subtracting, and then we're going to bring down, in this case, we're carrying the next term down, so minus 13x. So now we're going to do something similar. We need 20x squared. So again, we're going to ask ourselves, what would I multiply x by to get 20x squared? It's actually x minus 2, but just look at the x to kind of decide that. 20x times x minus 2 would work. So we'll do plus 20x for our division step and do x minus 2 times 20x to figure out what is that actually equal to. That's going to be 20x squared minus 40x for our multiplication step. So we'll write that underneath. 20x squared minus 40x. And then we need to subtract, and again, put that bracket in because you need to make sure you're subtracting both terms. 20x squared minus 20x squared is 0. I don't really write the 0. Negative 13x minus negative 40x. So negative 13x plus 40x is negative 27x. I'm going to slide this up so we have a little more room. We're going to bring down our next term, which is a minus 9. And then the same thing. So we need negative 27x. X times something to get us that. That something is going to be 27. 27 times x would give us the 27x. So we'll multiply, x minus 2 times 27. That's going to be 27x minus 54. So for our multiplication step, we have 27x minus 54, and we're going to subtract that. And at this point, notice your polynomial doesn't have anything else to bring down, so this is really giving us our remainder. Negative 27x plus 27x will be 0. Negative 9 plus 54 will give us positive 45. I'm going to put a plus sign just to make a big deal out of that. I'm going to label that with a little r for a remainder. So that's our remainder. And take a look at up here in the top. That's our answer, or our quotient. So we know if we take our polynomial and divide it by x minus 2, it's going to be equal to 5x squared plus 20x plus 27 with a remainder of 45. So again, there's two ways we can write this. Our first way is we can say what the polynomial is equal to. 5x cubed plus 10x squared minus 13x minus 9 is equal to, I'm going to move that down a little so we have enough space. Our divisor, x minus 2, times our quotient, 5x squared plus 20x plus 27 plus our remainder, 45. That's our first form of answer. For a second form of answer, we can write it as a division statement. So the same polynomial, 5x cubed plus 10x squared minus 13x minus 9 divided by x minus 2 is equal to our quotient, 5x squared plus 20x plus 27 plus our remainder, 45, but that 45 needs to be divided by x minus 2. And that gives us our second form of answer. A lot of the time you are going to need to provide an answer in both forms, so make sure you're familiar with both of them.